Well, welcome back, viewer. If you're just joining us, you're watching GBS Morning Extra. And today, as we promised, in this segment, we are going to look at, what preventive measures are being taken right now by county governments mostly. That is, of course, working together with the national government. There has been, however, calls by the county governments to, asking the national government to try and decentralize, the testing of this disease. And the county government have really stepped up measures to deal with any case of the dreaded coronavirus, especially after the national government announced that 3 more people had contracted the virus, which now brings the total number, officially, the total number to 7. Of course, we had the Cabinet Secretary, Mutahi Kagwe, yesterday announced that there are still some other cases that are still that tested, about 7 cases that tested negative, but then we have another 11 or so that are still being observed. And it's really, the situation is really developing very fast. Very quickly, I want to read through to you some of the few counties and what they are doing. We have Tharaka Nithi, which has 4 main health facilities. That's Chuka County Referral Hospital, and we have the Mirimanti, we have Magutuni, we have Kibunga Sub-County Hospital, which already have isolation wards in place just to deal with the situation in case it breaks out in the county. When we go to Kirinyaga, and Kirinyaga, yesterday we saw the Governor Anne Waiguru come out and also announce that he has actually formed a team that will be looking into this. They have a team of doctors and other experts who are actually able and ready to do the testings. Should the national government heed to the call by the county governments to, decentralize the testing of the same. Kirinyaga County has also established 2 isolation wards at Sagana and Kirigoya hospitals, which can handle up to 40 patients, which I think is a good number. Crossing over in Meru, that's the Meru Level 5 Hospital has 20-bed isolations and treatment wards for coronavirus as part of their preparedness also to handle the disease if it sets in. Now, we cross over to Nyeri. Nyeri County Governor Mutahi Kahiga, on Monday, remember, I think we ran that piece on our Morning Extra, ordered all bars and nightclubs closed by 10 p.m. in a bid to try and just control, the possible spread of this virus. Kahiga also said that the county has also hired 3 medical personnel who previously served in Liberia during the Ebola crisis, which, of course, is, I think, the floating of the credentials of these experts is just to show how prepared they are, and that the people who are, being tasked with the work of doing, taking care of the situation, should it arise in the county, is that they've been there and they've handled an epidemic before. They will be stationed at the Mount Kenya Level 5 Hospital, isolation wards. Crossing over to Rift Valley County in the North Rift, public health officials and administrators have come up with a raft of measures aimed at containing any possible spread of the deadly coronavirus, which has caused panic among the residents. And we had some slight, we would call it a scare in the region the other day, but then authorities came out and, tried to allay fears that there was no confirmed case of coronavirus in the region. In Nandi County, the presence of 2 Chinese nationals caused panic after doctors screened them for coronavirus. The 2 will remain in isolation at the site of the company they are working for, following a directive from authorities, which again now brings us to sets the base for the discussion that we're going to have today about these isolation centers. And I mean, it's quite interesting. When we had the Chinese plane that landed in Kenya and, stirred controversy, and there was an uproar among Kenyans. And I think this was the beginning of now Kenyans beginning to be more cautious and asking questions about how prepared is the government and what measures the government is taking. And you remember it is after that incident that now, I think since then, the Cabinet Secretary has been coming out continuously to talk to Kenyans about these cases. And there are also suggestions that, these isolation centers should be set in more secure areas. In this case of Nandi, we have the two still remaining in isolation in the site of the company where they're working. It raises a lot of question. Are they monitored? How do we know if, they're working out or if people are interacting with them in the same? Now, to help us discuss that more, I guess that by now, if you're a follower of our program, you realize that has been with us and has been very helpful in terms of helping us just disseminate this information and talk to our viewers about what really needs to be done. We have with us in studio Bernard Mwega, who is going to talk to us about this. Bernard, right before the program, kwanza karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Right before the program, we were talking about the case of the Chinese when they came into the country, and there was an uproar, and a court actually suggested that isolation should be in a more secure environment, more of a military establishment, just to make sure that those who are being quarantined and being observed don't find themselves in the market or in the supermarkets.
Yes, thank you very much. Welcome, viewer. We are here today to continue disseminating information and helping you and educating you on how to contain and to prevent the spread of this coronavirus. Just as a starter, I just run through the general preventive measures that we have. I'm sure by now you are washing your hands every time you have a chance. And today we are going to look deeply into how to implement how to wash our hands. Number two, I'm sure you are keeping social distance, especially for people who are sneezing, people who are coughing, and people who are having respiratory illnesses. Number three, I'm sure by now we are aware that we are supposed to clean or to clean surfaces, disinfect surfaces, doorknobs, our phones, and everything that we touch. Also, when we cough, we use our elbow, or we use wipes, we use tissues, which we can dispose of. Now, going back to Timothy and what we were discussing about quarantine. When the plane landed with about 200 or something Chinese, then there was a court order that was very clear that they should be quarantined in a military facility. The reason for this was because they should not mix with other people. Yes. And they should be guarded. They should not be left in a place where they can mingle with other people. Recently, we heard of a person who was quarantined in a facility in Nairobi. Yes. Then they left the facility, which is very easy. As a human being, we love our space, we love our freedom. Sure. If you are placed somewhere and you are told to stay, to restrict your movement, have you been in a cell?
I've never been. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've never been in a cell.
It's the worst place to be. Where your freedom is restricted. Yes. So naturally, as a human being, you like mingling with others. We are social animals. And therefore, it's a call to our government, it's a call to our county government, the national government, that those people who defy quarantine, and remember what our CS, Mr. Mutai Kagwe said yesterday, that it is a crime punishable by law.
Criminal offense.
If you do not quarantine yourself, or if you promise to quarantine yourself and you don't quarantine yourself. If you are being quarantined and then you run away, you can be taken to a court of law and you can be jailed, you can be fined, or both jail and fine. So I think we should become more serious and quarantine these people in restricted areas.
In restricted areas. And when you look at what county governments are doing right now, county governments are really trying to put in measures. They are building isolation wards and so on and so forth. For instance, one among the county governments that I did not read, but we ran the item today in our bulletin, is Kisumu County, where they had about 3 different spots, isolation centers. One of the isolation centers is actually located in the airport, where they have beds complete, so that the people who are coming in, if, for instance, if by any chance you're found to be, to have the symptoms and so on and so forth, it's not that they're going to again, put you in a car and transport you to another facility. No, just within the airport, they do the isolation there. But then there's a call by county governments asking the central government to decentralize the testing of this disease, because they're also crying about the time. I mean, you get a case in Marsabit or Wajir, then you have to bring the samples all the way to Nairobi for testing, and it's quite hectic. What is your take on that? And, as we are continuing, and today also I think it's good, because also today I would like you to take us also through the different phases that, this disease goes through, takes us, so that even the public also can understand why the measures that are being taken.
Thank you very much, Philip. I've had you going through what different counties are doing, and I'm sure every county is doing something.
Sure.
You've mentioned just a few. I didn't hear you mention Kiambu, because we've not announced, but in Kiambu County, there are 3 isolation hospitals.
All right.
Thika Level 5 Hospital has an isolation ward. Gatondo Level 5 Hospital has an isolation ward. Kiambu Level 5 Hospital has an isolation ward. And I'm sure the health department in Kiambu County is looking for more facilities that can have isolation, especially I think there's an order for all Level 4s to ensure that Level 4 hospitals, to ensure that they have an isolation facility, however small it is, but have an isolation facility. Of course, there are other measures, like we are having training for health workers.
All right.
Health workers, it's continuing, and it's being accelerated as days go by, and various other measures that have been taken by various county governments. Now, if going to the phases of this epidemic.
Yes.
Remember, this epidemic is quite new. It started in December.
Yes.
We are now in the 3rd month.
Yes.
And there are phases that have been clearly identified by CDC and other organs that are looking at this condition. Now, phase 1, it has 3 phases. They have postulated that phase 1 is importation phase.
Importation.
This is where, you remember yesterday, our minister, our CS for Health, said that the cases we are having in Kenya are cases from outside. They have been imported.
From other countries.
They have come from other countries to our countries, because our country did not have this virus. So it's being brought from outside by people who have traveled to areas that have reported cases which are positive. Our cases so far, we are in phase 1. And in phase 1, the cases are counted in tens. If there has been information going in social media about different countries and what the numbers they had in week 1, the numbers they had in week 2, the numbers they had in week 3. And phase 1 takes around 2 weeks. Phase 1 takes around 2 weeks, and the numbers can be counted in tens.
All right.
Then we go to phase 2. And during phase 1, it is good to note that there are recommended measures that are supposed to be taken. One, you are supposed to disseminate information.
All right.
Disseminate information as much as possible, and that's where GBS is coming in. We've been disseminating information since the start of this pandemic.
Yes.
And many other radio stations. Remember yesterday, Mutai Kagwe was very thankful to the media, because the media is doing quite a lot in participating in disseminating information, and of course, GBS TV is not being left behind.
Yes, definitely.
Then the other phase is phase 2. Now, when we go to phase 2, this phase is now community spread. This is where now the virus is already in the community, and dissemination is now coming from, the spread is coming from the community.
The community side.
Remember, there were those people who imported, they came, they mingled with people,
They had contacts.
They had contact with people. They used public service vehicles. They went to the market. They went to churches. They went to schools. They went everywhere. Now, within 2 weeks, this virus has now incubated, and it now starts getting out, and people who have been infected by the previous people who were in phase 1 now start coming out. Now the community spread. Now, these numbers are now in thousands. Remember, we have
among the contacts to the importers.
Yeah. Now this is person to person. And we have been told that the coronavirus has a base reproductive rate of 2.2. A base reproductive rate of 2.2 means that one case can infect 2 to 3 people.
All right.
At any one time.
2 to 3 people at any one
At
time.
a single moment. It can infect 2 to 3 people. It does not mean that it is at the lifetime of that person. No, it is at any moment. If they go to the supermarket, they can infect 2 to 3 people. When they go to the public service vehicle, they can infect 2 to 3 people. When they go to church, they can infect 2 to 3 people. Everywhere they go, they can infect 2 to 3 people. So you can now imagine how fast that will spread. Now, what are you supposed to do in phase 2? In phase 2, you are now supposed, in phase 2, you're supposed to do hand washing, strict hand washing, ensure social distancing.
All right.
This way we are saying people to stay at least 1 meter.
1 meter
away from people who are coughing and sneezing. You are supposed to ensure what we call respiratory hygiene. Respiratory hygiene is where when you cough, you don't cough without covering your mouth. And when you cover your mouth, you don't cover your mouth with your bare hands. You cover your mouth with the elbow. Or you use tissue or serviettes, which you throw away. And you don't throw away in the open air. You don't throw away in the field. You don't throw away like this habit we have of throwing things out of a moving car, throwing tissue everywhere. You throw them in a receiver, which has a lid. In a dustbin, which has a lid. So that you are preventing the movement of the bacteria or the virus. Then we go to phase 3. Phase 3 is now where we have an epidemic.
Right, now
it is the epidemic phase. Now this is where we have cases in thousands. We have cases in thousands and millions.
Yes.
And here, it's where places like Spain and Italy are now, and even America,
the United States,
is in the USA is in phase 3 right now, because now the whole community, we have cases in thousands, and everybody almost, the CDC is postulating that in a worst case scenario, this virus can infect 0.5 to 1% of the population. 0.5 to 1% of the population. In a worst case scenario. That means in a worst case scenario, about 2 million to 4 million Kenyans can have this virus. That's a very scary number. It's very scary.
4.5 million Kenyans.
Very scary. It can, in a worst case scenario. That is if we do not adhere to the measures that we are being told to adhere.
That is the phase 2 now, where we are asked to
if we take this thing lightly, if you take it as a joke, if we take it as if it's we are being threatened, we are exposing to ourselves to a situation where we can have 0.5 to 1% of our population being infected.
Forgive me for saying, but Kenyans tend to have, this level of distrust, especially when information comes from authorities, and they're like, hiyo ni mambo ya serikali tu. Serikali inataka tu kututishia. Mimi sijaona mtu amegonjeka, and so on and so forth. I mean, that kind of an attitude could land us into this, what you're now telling us.
Definitely it will. And if you wait to see somebody who is sick, remember, to see them means maybe you are close to them.
You're close to them.
So you are already highly exposed. Most likely, before you know they are sick, they had transmitted the virus to you. Most likely, you'll also be sick. So we don't wait. Yesterday also somebody asked me, Daktari, are you sure you're going to tatushika? And I was shocked. I told them, it's already here.
Are you sure that
Are you sure? I told them, it's already with
here
us.
with us?
We are not waiting for it to come. It has already come here. And that tells you that people on the ground, most people could be taking it as a joke. Wengine wanasema ni ugonjwa Nairobi, iko Nairobi. And remember, it has come from China to Kenya, in 3 months.
Wow, that's very
It has
fast.
taken 3 months. From China to Kenya. How fast will it take from Nairobi to the farthest part of Nairobi? Let's say, for example, Lodwar, Mombasa, Busia.
Some village in Kisumu.
Some village in the far off Kisumu and Kakamega. It will take less than a month, isn't it?
Sure.
Because how fast does it take you to move from Nairobi, you as a person, from Nairobi to Busia? If you go by road, maybe 10 hours.
10 hours. Max.
Maximum.
That's
10
on
hours.
the higher side.
If you go by plane, you go land, I think, in
About
Kisumu, then
45 minutes.
Then 45 minutes to Kisumu. So it can take as less as 45 minutes to go to Kisumu. It can take less than 30 minutes to go to Mombasa. So we don't have to wait for people to see someone who is sick for us to take measures. If we don't take measures seriously, we are exposing ourselves to a very dangerous situation.
So the move by governors, some of them have already, actually. Yesterday we saw the governor for Meru County, Governor Kiraitu Murungi, actually announced that, markets will be closed. And yesterday I also I had a guest in studio who was also trying to discuss with us and sensitize us on the economic impact that the disease has had to the economy. And he was telling us about, business people in Kajiado County, him being among them. They already received circulars from the county government, restricting some businesses, informal markets and so on and so forth. Yesterday we saw Kiraitu say open air markets until further notice. They're suspending all these operations. The call by the county governments to decentralize the testing of this disease. Is it too early? Or is it the right time that we should be doing thinking about this?
We need to decentralize. Actually, it's like we are late. Because the reasoning behind this is the numbers are likely to increase. Going with what we have seen happening from the epicenter in China, from the new epicenter in USA, and remember, the way things are, it's like these epicenters are shifting.
Yes.
We don't know when, where, and how it will shift next.
Yeah.
Let's just pray to God that it does not shift to Kenya or shift to Africa. But we need, the more the people that are there, the more the centers for testing that we should have. Because if we have only one center or two centers in Nairobi, then and they are taking long to identify these people. Yes. Then as the test is being done, what is happening in the villages? More people are getting infected. If we can have centers, and actually not only centers, if we can have tests which can give us results in minutes, which can give us results in a few hours, the better for us. But I'm sure this is not a thing that the Kenyan government can decide on. It's being decided by the CDC and other WHO. They are the ones who are saying this is the test kit to use. Don't use this test kit. And I'm sure by now they are giving the best that there is. If we hear a test is giving results in 6 hours, then be it, because that should be the best. If that's what WHO has recommended, then it should be the best.
That's the best.
But we are calling upon even scientists to come with tests that can give results as quickly as possible. And the call to decentralize the testing should be done. It was a good move, and we should decentralize. Even, I heard the governor saying regional.
Regional, yes.
Maybe we have around, is it 7 or 8 regions in Kenya? And it should go even beyond regions. If we can have in each county, if we can have, like we have one in Nairobi, all the 47 counties, or as many as possible in all the counties, we shall be able to contain this spread in a much quicker and faster way.
Because when you look at this, right now, they have to travel with, samples all the way from wherever in the country, bring them to Nairobi. And something also that you mentioned very important, which I think also the Minister mentioned yesterday, the test kits at the moment are also not very much available. They are limited, given the magnitude that the pandemic has hit the globe with. Are we looking at a situation where we might have more cases and less test kits?
I don't think so. I don't believe so. Because I think this is a situation that is not being controlled by the Kenyan government. It is being controlled by the World Health Organization. And the World Health Organization cannot allow such a scenario to happen. Because I believe they have invested too much. I think they have invested in billions of US dollars. I don't have the figures, but I'm sure it is in billions of US dollars. And they cannot allow such a scenario to happen. We cannot have a situation where we cannot confirm a case. I don't think it will happen. We will have enough. Maybe we may not have enough now, but with the time soon moving forward, I'm sure the WHO, the CDC will avail all these things, and we should. In the meantime, if we do not have, if you like in the mashinani, we don't have a test kit, but we can suspect a case.
All right.
And when we suspect a case, we have a case definition for a suspected case. A person who is coughing, a person who is sneezing, a person who has a raised body temperature, a person who is having headache and all those respiratory symptoms plus they had traveled to a country with reported cases. They were caring for a person who is known to be positive. They had visited a hospital or a home where a known case had lived. If you have such a person, then definitely we have a suspected case.
We have a suspected case.
Yes.
Yeah. Because when you look at this, I'm trying to imagine a scenario, Bernard, where, you know, as the moment, as we are looking at the cases that we have and the situation that we have is that still the public is, there's this feeling that the public is yet to grasp the magnitude and, you know, the danger with, you know, contracting the virus. And although it comes like a common cold, but then you realize that even around us, we still have people coughing and people will laugh like, hey, you know, corona. Yes, it may be taken as a joke, but how concerned should we be?
Thank you very much. In my community,
yes,
there is a saying that says, an African runs when it is getting dark. Loosely translated.
An African runs when it gets dark.
When it is that. To explain it, it means we always take action when it is too late.
So the last minute rush culture.
We always take action when things are getting out of hand. Like it was saying, you want to prepare supper, instead of starting at 5 or 4 p.m., at 6 p.m., at 7 p.m. is when you're rushing to the market. Unakuta maziwa imeisha. You are rushing to... And that's, so I think it is in our culture. And so far, it has not gotten dark as far as the spread of the virus is concerned.
Yes.
And therefore, we are not running. But we should change that concept. We should get very serious. We should get very concerned. Because also the Swahilis say, ukiona cha mwenzako chanyolewa, tia chako maji. Tumeona vile kumefanyika China, tumeona vile kumefanyika America, tumeona Spain, tumeona Italy, and many other countries.
Iran.
Yes, Kenya is not an exception. Africa is not an exception. We have seen police and military going in the streets and forcing people to stay indoors. It can happen in Kenya. And
it happened in Wuhan, a population of about 11 million locked in the houses.
Yes, it can happen in Kenya if we don't take this thing seriously. And remember what I had said previously, that the World Health Organization, the CDC, are postulating a worst case scenario of 0.5 to 1% population of getting infected. In Kenya, 44 million, 4.4 million, 2.2 to 4.4 million. Now, seriously, who will get who? If you are not there, who will be there?
Who will be there?
So we have to be very serious. when you go to a matatu, I was in a stage in a matatu, and somebody, people being washed hands, and people are just laughing and taking it as a joke, and say, oh, mimi nilikuwa nimeoga mkono usinioshe. You know, we are not taking things very seriously until, as you had said before, we see somebody who is sick, and that is where then we are saying an African runs when it gets dark. Let's not reach there.
And I think reading through what the counties are doing, it's quite contrary. And I think we discussed this a bit earlier. And it's more, I think the governors are also becoming more concerned about waiting for the last minute rush and also waiting for the situation to escalate so that we can have, you know, more centers. And probably I think that's why they are calling for this. And we also had the Machakos governor there, Alfred Mutua, yesterday call on the same, and he said, you know, he was calling for, you know, devolution of the centers to allow that we have more facilities. Quite interesting, because even in our discussion before we began the program, you are alluding to the fact that actually the implementations that we are seeing on the prevention at this time are actually what are supposed to be implemented in the second phase, but we are already still in the first phase.
Yes. We need to thank our government, and because our government is moving one step ahead of the virus. And why am I saying this? Because we use data to make decisions.
Yes.
The data here is the number of infections and the phase of the infection. For each phase of infection, and for a certain number of infections, the World Health Organization and other organizations, there is what they have recommended to be done. Now, what is recommended to be done in phase 1, which we are in, is that we are supposed to disseminate information. That's only. That we are supposed to disseminate information, tell people, wash your hands, tell people, keep social distance, tell people, don't touch your face unnecessarily. Actually, don't touch your face completely at all, unless maybe you are itching or you are scratching. All those measures, those are supposed, we are supposed to give the information. Then in phase 2, we are supposed now to come in and ensure social distancing, ensure that people are, ensure the implementation of the information that was disseminated. But remember our government, what they did? We bypassed phase 1 actions and brought phase 2 actions into phase 1, which is very recommendable, because we cannot wait, we cannot go slow. We cannot go slow. I can equate it to this. If maybe you have a rat, you want to kill a rat, would you use, will you hit it slowly until it dies, or you just use one big blow? One big blow and kill it. You'd rather use one big blow and kill it instead of small it might blows get away. For it to kill it. So that our government has taken the actions of step 2, phase 2, and brought them to phase 1, which is a very good measure. Because we have seen closure of schools. Remember, in the Western world, closure of schools was coming in phase 2. Came much later, It was coming very much later.
When they had hundreds of cases.
When they had hundreds, when they had when they had below 10 or below, they did not close schools. They did not close their social places. But as we are taking the plans for phase 2, we are bringing them to phase 1. So that we can contain it as early as possible. And that's a plus to our government.
I think, indeed, give credit where it is due. The Kenyan government has indeed implemented something that, if we look at what happened, and I totally agree with you, ukiona mwenzako ananyolewa, tia chako maji. Nafikiri serikali ya Kenya imetia nywele yake maji, manake kwa hakika janga hili linafika, linakuja, na tutaweza kukabiliana na mambo kama haya ambao tumeona katika nchi zingine kama Italy, Iran na hata Uchina, mahali ambapo janga hili lilianzia. Now, for now, we take a short break, and as we take a short break, I would just like to remind you, and I've been telling you this along, that today we are going to do something that seems very basic, seems very obvious, but it is something that after we finish with the exercise that we're going to carry out after the break, you realize that you really don't know or you have not been doing this in the right way. I'm talking about hand washing. And hand washing, I'll read a very small excerpt here from what the CDC says, that hand washing can help prevent illnesses. It goes on to say it involves 5 simple and effective steps. That's wet, lather, scrub, rinse, and dry. Now, you can take to reduce the spread of diarrhea or respiratory illnesses, so you can stay healthy. Regular hand washing, particularly before and after certain activities, is one of the best ways to remove germs and avoid getting sick and prevent the spread of germs to other people as well. It's quick, it's simple, and it can keep us from getting sick. And hand washing, is a win for everyone except for only one person, the germs or the virus that we're fighting. So for now, viewer, don't touch that dial. If you have any comments, suggestions, or opinion, you can send that to our SMS line 21144. Our Twitter handle is @KenyaGBS. You can use our hashtag, that's GBS Morning Extra. We take a short break now, but when we come back, Bernard here is going to help us and show us how to properly wash your hands. So we take a short break. We'll be right back.
Coronaviruses are a family of contagious viruses that can cause respiratory infections from the common cold to SARS. These viruses can mutate rapidly, resulting in the 2019 new coronavirus named SARS coronavirus 2, which has crown-like spikes that characterize the family. As with most viruses, SARS coronavirus 2 commonly spreads from an infected person to others through droplets in the air when coughing and sneezing, through close personal contact, or by touching a contaminated surface and then touching the face. Unless controlled, each infection typically results in 2 to 3 subsequent people being infected. Like other coronaviruses, SARS coronavirus 2 deposits its genetic material into host cells. The viral RNA reaches host elements called ribosomes, which act as factories that produce viral proteins. This facilitates replication of the viral genome and assembly of viral components, producing fully formed replicants that are secreted and further spread infection. Infection caused by SARS coronavirus 2 is known as COVID-19 and can cause fever, coughing and breathing difficulties, along with cold-like symptoms. Serious cases of COVID-19 can cause pneumonia, severe acute respiratory syndrome, kidney failure, and can lead to fatalities. Global health organizations have outlined preventive measures to reduce the chances of SARS coronavirus 2 infection, including refraining from touching the face with unclean hands and frequent hand washing with soapy water. As with previous global outbreaks such as swine flu, COVID-19 has gained global attention and treatment development is being accelerated.
Assessment of education is based mainly on knowledge gained by students studying fiercely. With their busy lives, people are unable to spare time in today's competitive society. People are living without hope for the future. This creates social problems in the absence of education mindsets. Problems such as game addiction, school violence, alcoholism, drug addiction, divorce, crime, and suicide. Today's world is becoming ill. Changed minds give changed lives. Changed minds bring a changed world. Today, the world desperately needs strong minds, moderate mindsets, and the intellect of change and challenge presented by the International Mind Education Institute. The International Mind Education Institute was founded in 1995 by people who know the importance of the right mind of education based on the experience gained from changing young people for the better. The Institute has analyzed many social problems from various angles and found that each country has and holds the key solution. In July 2012, at the Minister of Youth World Forum, a joint declaration for character education was issued, proposing measures to overcome the limitations of knowledge-oriented education. In 2015, the Republic of Korea, understanding the importance of character education, legislated the world's first Character Education Promotion Act to diverge from knowledge-driven education and enforce compulsory character education in public schools. In order to change the world, the International Mind Education Institute teaches these new mindsets to participants such as parents and family camps, students, teachers, professors, military personnel, business personnel, police officers, reserve officers, training corps, and public officials.
That he gave during this PPT presentation, it really sends the chills down my spine, and it really it's a very promising concept, and I believe that my faculty and my students, if they go through this experience, like today we have signed a memorandum of association MOU with IMEA, and I look forward to enrolling my students and all my faculty, which are in like numbers, they're 200 in number. I plan to enroll them for this fabulous course, and I'm sure that they will get something out of it, very productive out of it. I'm looking forward to it.
International Mind Education Institute specializes in both character and mind education, presenting the proper ethos for a happy life of humanity. The organization systematically operates educator forums and mind education specialist training in many countries, as well as counseling programs in schools, military bases, government offices, industries, businesses, and prisons. After signing MOUs with global educational institutions, IMEI supports the establishment of mind education departments in universities and proposes vision and direction of mind education through academic exchanges, promoting active joint activities. The Mind Education of International Mind Education Institute cultivates strong heart to solve and overcome any difficulties people face in their life and help lead problem-free and happy lives. Changed minds give changed lives. Changed minds bring a changed world.
And welcome back. Don't be surprised, I had promised you earlier that today we are going to carry out an activity, very interesting activity, something that you've always thought that you know how to do, but today we are going to show you how to do it properly and the proper way in which to do it. Of course, Bernard is here with me and he will be demonstrating to us. Today we are going to practice proper hand washing. And when I talk about proper hand washing, I also learned that there are 5 steps to actually wash your hands. We have the wetting of the hand, we have the lathering, we have the rinse, the scrubbing, we have the rinsing, and then we have the drying. And that's what today actually we are going to do here. And Bernard, so I think the ball is on your court right now.
Thank you.
Just tell me what to do and I'm at a service.
Thank you very much, Philip. Hand washing. Kuoga ama kuosha mkono. Hand washing is said to be the single most important way of preventing infections. These are gastrointestinal infections like diarrhea and respiratory infection. And there's nothing that can beat the washing of hands because our hands transmit a lot of, we touch things and we have a lot of bacteria in our hands. As you said well, that it's a process, it is a process that involves 5 stages. 1, you wet your hands. Number 2, you lather your hands. Then you scrub. Then you rinse. Then you dry with a disposable tissue and throw away. And it should take between 20 to 30 seconds. 1, to ensure that you have 20 to 30 seconds, you can either sing the happy birthday song, beginning to end 2 times, or you can have a count of 5 in every scrub that you are doing. So let's go ahead and do this. First of all, you wet my hand.
All right.
And remember, we are using running water.
Running water.
We cannot use stagnant water.
It has to be running.
Yes, running water. We use running water. It can be warm, it can be cold, whichever, just that's enough. Then put some amount of, you cup your hand, one hand. You can put 3 to 5 mils of liquid soap. Liquid soap is the best, but if you don't have liquid soap, don't worry.
That's enough?
That's enough. Okay. You can use any other soap. Now, I've wet my hand. I've put soap. Now, I'm going to lather my hands. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road. Now, in scrubbing, now I have to scrub. I'm lathering now. I have to scrub. You start with palm to palm.
Palm to palm.
Palm to palm. And you count 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then from there, you interlace your fingers and you count 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you go to the, remember, the lower hand is, we are doing it in opposition. So you press on the opposite hand. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
So it's the upper hand that is doing the scrubbing now.
Yes, it's scrubbing the lower one. And you go 5 times. Then you go to the back
of your hand.
Of the hand. Then with your finger still interlaced, you do it 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The other hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we go to the tip of the fingers.
That's the nails.
Yes, the nails. Remember, your nails should be short.
All right.
So that you don't have a bacteria. Then you interlace them again. Then you press on the lower hand.
All right.
Then you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you interchange. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then remember, there are 2 areas that we have not done. One is a thumb.
The thumb is not done
1,
because it's
2, 3, 4, 5. Then the other thumb, 1, you rub in circular motions.
All right.
2, 3, 4, 5. Then there is this center part, the palm of the hand, which is deep. When you were lathering and scrubbing, you had not reached. So you will now have to come back to it in circular motions, front and backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you can do your elbow in circular motions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3.
And probably people
4,
are looking at this and they're like, ah,
5.
do you always have to wash our hands like that?
Then from there you rinse with
Okay.
running water.
That's where I come in.
Yes. You do it now, you rinse. And you rinse from top going down.
Going down.
You start from top going down. Then you can rinse the palms. Then you dry. Use a disposable tissue.
All right. Why disposable tissue is
This is to ensure that all the dirt that you are using is thrown away.
into the dust.
If you use a towel, you are going to leave the dirt in the towel. And the next person using,
going to use
using the towel will now be applying your dirt on their hands.
their hands.
So you use a disposable tissue, then you throw away in a dustbin with a lid.
All right.
The dustbin must have a lid. So you throw away in the dustbin and you are good to go. Yes, now your hands are clean and you can now eat your food, you can do your work. Remember, we are also disinfecting surfaces.
Yes.
Because it's not good enough to wash your hands only. Then you go to touch your table, which is not disinfected.
clean.
You use your phone, which is not disinfected.
Yes.
You use your pen, which is not disinfected. So we are also disinfecting surfaces.
Surfaces, yeah.
Yes.
So at this time, you know, hand washing has been really touted for this time. Maybe you can just tell us a little bit, by washing the hands, what does that mean? That is, one would want to ask, is hand washing the ultimate, or is it how safe, or where does it leave us after we wash our hands?
Hand washing is said to eliminate 99%
All right.
of transient bacteria and viruses which are in your hands. Transient means the dirt or the bacteria that came into your hands in the course of your doing your activities, in the course of living, and those bacteria, 99% of them are eliminated by hand washing. And you cannot replace hand washing with sanitizer. No, it is sanitizing. Using a sanitizer is not a replacement of hand washing. You must wash your hands. And then the other thing maybe we should have said earlier, when do you wash your hands?
When do you wash your hands?
When do you wash your hands? Definitely, you wash your hands, one, when your hands are visibly dirty.
All right.
You've been to the shamba, you are a mechanic, even here in studio, you have touched a few things right here and there, and you feel your hands are dirty, you should always wash your hands. Number two, when you go to the toilet, the bathroom, and come back, you must wash your hands.
Yes.
Before and after preparing food, you must wash your hands. And always, when you come from work, before you enter your house, wash your hands. Before you touch your children, before you lift your children, before you greet before you greet your spouse, wash your hands. Because wherever you have passed, you have collected so much bacteria. You are now coming to greet them, and you are now transmitting the bacteria to them. When you open your doorknob, all the bacteria that was in your hands, you are now transmitting it, putting it back into your doorknob. So that's why the other day I was saying, when people are building houses, let us have a sink which is placed outside the house. If you don't have a sink, you can have a tank, a small tank or a bucket which has a tap placed outside the house, so that everybody who is coming, including you, when you come, and some soap. If you are using bar soap, it is important to place it on a soap dish that can allow water to drip. Because some people, they place bar soap in a container, that cannot throw away water. So that now, all the dirt that was in the soap, remember, soaps get dirty.
Yes.
So all the dirt that was in the soap, then you put it in a place where water cannot run. Then the next person is going to pick the bacteria that you left. So you either put it in a dish that can allow water to run, or a rack.
All right.
Yes, a rack which can allow water to run and can allow the soap to dry.
Well, quite interesting. And viewer, listening to all this, it's like a whole new experience. But hand washing, I mean, we've been washing our hands for the longest time. When we were young, we were told, when you visit the bathroom, when you come out from the bathroom, before you eat, you should also wash your hands. But then, how important and why it is important for us to do this? These are things that most of us have taken for granted. I think it's you we were talking with the other day, and we were talking, and most people are like, hii kuosha mkono, hii ni mambo ya wazungu na nini. But then with this kind of pandemic, visiting our country this time, I think it's a culture that we now need to regenerate if it had been completely eroded.
Yes, and that's what you are saying. With corona, without corona, even before virus came, we were washing our hands. Virus will come and it will go. And it will leave us. And we should be left washing our hands. Remember what we said in the beginning, that hand washing is the most important factor to prevent respiratory illnesses and diarrheal diseases. In Kenya, diarrheal diseases are a number 1 killer, especially in the under 5s. It is actually number 1.
Number 1.
Diarrheal diseases. And we can prevent diarrheal diseases by simply washing our hands. And not only washing our hands, but washing the hands of the small ones. And teaching them. When we teach them, even the Bible tells us, teach a person when they are young, and they will never forget.
And they'll never forget. Yeah.
Teach our children to wash their hands, and let us take this opportunity that we've been granted. Let us teach our children to wash their hands so that as they grow, they know. It's not our
It becomes a culture.
No. It's not a culture it's not a Western culture. Hand washing is a human culture, which should be ingrained and it should be adopted by everybody. Because when you're eating dirty, then you spend your money to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And you should have just spent water and soap. And when we talk of soap, Philip, it is any soap.
Any soap will kill bacteria.
Any soap. The Kipande soap will do fine. The antibacterial soap will do fine. So don't stretch your budget and say, I need an antibacterial soap, I need liquid soap. It can be liquid, it can be bar soap. It can be antibacterial, it can be the kawaida soap. Any soap. And water has to be running, and it doesn't have to be warm, it can be warm or cold. Yeah.
Depending on how you like it. Well, viewer, it's quite interesting that, we go through so many things, but then at a time like this, I think it's a blessing in disguise, if I may be allowed to say so, because what the coronavirus is basically doing is reminding us of some very basic things that for a long time most of us have been ignoring. And at this particular time, and as we've also heard from, our professionals, is that hand washing, as much as it may seem to be a small thing, and especially at this time when we've been hearing the government coming out and sensitizing Kenyans on prevention, I think this is the first and foremost ways of prevention of, spreading this disease, because the surfaces that we touch, our hands, the contacts that we do, most people will use their hands to block their nose when they're sneezing or coughing. You'll touch that tissue and, throw it away, but still you need to clean your hands, you need to disinfect your hands. So at this time, I think as we come to the end of our program, maybe just a final word of advice. Right now, so many children are at home, and probably, I believe, maybe some of them are watching this or will be watching this later. Just a word of advice to parents and those at home.
A word of advice. Our children left school for a reason. Our children were not told to go home to go to swimming pools. They were not told to go home so that they can go to those places where children enjoy games and all that. Our children were told to go home so that they can be quarantined. Let us quarantine in our homes, but it's a bit tricky, especially for those who are living in towns and estates. But let us restrict our children as much as we can. Number 2, let us teach them how and when to wash their hands. Every time you have an opportunity, wash your children's hand, wash your hands, and if we take these measures seriously, we are going to control. We might not go to phase 2, as we had said earlier, but even if we go to phase 2, it might not be as severe as it has been in other countries. Then the other thing I would like to mention or to do is the hand wash.
Yes.
How do we use a hand wash? Is it just you put something, then because I've seen some people in the streets or in the matatus and in buildings, when the hand wash is put, somebody just
the
goes and
disinfectant
then
that
they
is-
go. How do you use it? Just like we were using soap and water. This one, you have to ensure that your hands are not physically dirty, that your hands are clean. You had, for example, washed your hands before you left home. Now you are driving, or you are in a matatu, or you are going to with a matatu. As you enter the matatu, they'll put some sanitizer in you. As you enter your place of work at the gate, they will put some sanitizer on you. As you enter the office, probably they'll put some sanitizer. So the hands have to be very clean, not physically dirty. Then put some sanitizer. You can put 3 to 5 press ones. That's 1 mil, 2, 3. That's enough. Then you do the same as we were doing. You rub palm to palm.
All right.
You can do it 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So the whole hand is disinfected.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By now my hands are dry. So that's the process of using a sanitizer. But remember, a sanitizer cannot replace hand washing with soap.
It's not a replacement for
It's
hand
not
washing.
a replacement.
Well, I think you had it for yourself. Sanitizing your hand, that is not a replacement. It is not an option as in terms of, cleaning your hands. You need to wash your hands with water and soap. And as Bernard said, you don't need, liquid soap or those, kind of soaps, but any kind of soap and running water, that's enough. Whether the water is warm or cold, that is actually enough to fight the germs. Well, viewer, I believe that this measure that we took to come with Bernard here and also to share with you how to wash your hands, you can pass this to your children. You can as well implement it by yourself. And also you can also teach other people that you'll be coming into contact with today as you go to work, as you go about your daily business or wherever that you are. And I believe that as we do that, we are going to try as much as possible and curb the spread of the virus. It is here with us, and we've seen what it's done to other countries, but then we're also hopeful that if we adhere to these simple steps, these basic prevention measures, then we are going to go a long way in saving many lives and also protecting ourselves, others, and also the community at large. Well, thank you very much, viewer. Thank you very much, Bernard, for finding time to come, and we really appreciate your effort to also share with our viewers, the proper way of washing their hands. And I think that's all that we had prepared for you today. Don't forget to join us again tomorrow on GBS Morning Extra. We'll be having more on, prevention and also how to go about the coronavirus. And this is indeed an opportune time for us as Kenyans to think and also to come to terms with the reality that is now facing the world and to do as much as we can to try and just curb the spread of this deadly coronavirus. Well, my name is Timothy Omondi. Do have yourself a lovely day and see you again tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye for now.